My guest today is someone who's making a difference in the Nigerian banking industry. Femi Akinfolari is the head corporate strategy and planning at Wema Bank in Lagos. He has close to a decade of continuous leadership experience, supporting executive management on banking strategy and with areas of expertise that includes, but not limited to, strategy development and execution, retail banking, bank and non-bank financial services and technology. Femi's professional experience encompasses stints in business analysis, project management, implementation, and legal services. I am looking forward to learning more about Femi's journey in the banking industry and what we can all learn from him. I'm Bimbola, an energy analyst, sales manager, and recently qualified as a data scientist. And I love spending time with friends and family when I'm not podcasting. Before I continue, I'd like to acknowledge the support of PaySop Invest, a global financial advisory and wealth management firm based in Germany, France, and Nigeria. If you're looking to create generational wealth and understand how to manage your finances, do contact the PaySop Invest team on www.paysopinvest.com and their Instagram page, PaySop Invest. They offer services to individuals and corporate bodies alike. Without further ado, I'd like to welcome you listeners to the BlueSitron Podcast, where we discuss lifestyle, culture, and more. Hi, Femi. Good morning.
Hi, Bimbola. Good morning. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you. Thank you. So, welcome to BlueSitron. We're so excited to have you here.
I'm excited too, to be honest.
Great. So, Femi, tell us, how did you end up in the banking world? Was this something you had always wanted to do?
Interesting question. To be very honest, no. But you will remember that back in the day, there were a number of professions that our parents forced us into. So you had to either be an engineer, a lawyer, a doctor. Yes. So there were some bang-on areas that they wanted us to focus on. My dad was a lecturer of physics. He wanted me to study sciences. I rebelled and went in the opposite direction. So I studied law. And there was one final reason why I chose law. It was because I also felt at that age, I didn't know what I wanted to become. But from speaking to like a mentor, I had heard that as a lawyer, you could basically end up anywhere. You could be in business, you could be, in the legal field, you could work with a tech company. Everybody needs a company secretary or a legal person in their organization. So that's why I chose law. And ending up in banking was because I started working in consulting right out of law school. Okay. And one of the companies we dealt with extensively was Guarantee Trust Bank, which is one of the largest banks in Nigeria. And I just sort of got really interested in that space. So after I came back to Nigeria in 2009, I joined First Bank. And yeah, I've never looked back since.
That's interesting. You are 1000% correct with, our parents wanting us to do something. They wanted us to either be doctors or something. My dad wanted me to be a lawyer, actually. What he said to me, I know. What he said to me was, Bimbola, out of all my kids, you're the most outspoken one. I think you're going to do well in law. And I'm thinking, nope.
Yep, that's how it happened.
Exactly. I was like, no, and my mom, she's a clinical pharmacist, and she's done all this. She's as good as a medical doctor because she does everything. Let's just put it that way, and very well known within the pharmacy world. And my dad was an agricultural researcher with the FAO, Food and Agriculture Organization, back then. So for him, it was a case of, oh my God, Bim, she's this, she's that, she's always doing this. Definitely law. And he tried to make me like, okay, think about it. You could be an entertainment lawyer, you could be an environmental lawyer, you could be this. You don't have to go to court. And, I just thought, no, I'll study economics because I can also be anywhere. In fact, I wanted to go into banking at the time because I would go to the bank with my mom and I just loved how cool the banks were, and I was like, I think I'll go into banking, but I never even worked in a bank, not for one day. Not for one day. Interesting. Yeah. So speaking of banking, Femi, back in the day in Nigeria, to get into the banking industry, you needed to have some sort of connections. Yeah. But a lot has changed now, obviously, especially with the social media influence, right? I mean, it's not all about banks anymore. People could literally start their own businesses, even on social media, right? And, there was a telecommunication explosion in Nigeria, financial services and so on and so forth. Do you see the social media influence, for example? Do you see that as a positive measure? Given that to get into banking back then was a nightmare, literally.
You're absolutely spot on with regards to how people got into the industry back in the day. I got into the industry myself. I got back into Nigeria. I made a call to a few friends and someone said, hey, come and interview with us. So it was pretty straightforward. And really, you had to know someone. But things have sort of changed now. So this new generation, it's a bit more, the approach to entering is a bit different. So for example, in my bank, we have something called the BIT platform, whereby that's bankers in training. So basically, you would advertise on social media, you'd advertise anywhere and basically say, hey, there's space for 100 bankers to come into the bank. You guys have to go online, register, and do a test, a personality test, and some other tests, and then you'll be shortlisted and then interviewed and you can come into the bank. So every year you have that happening in every bank in Nigeria. So there is the ability to enter from the ground floor. You can come in as an intern. You can come in by doing this BIT thing. And yes, you can come in with the connection also. So that still exists. Yes.
I see. Interesting. But yeah, I like this BIT stuff because it gives opportunity to those that don't have connections, for example.
Absolutely.
Then it's a level playing ground for everyone, you see.
And it's sort of evolved. So for example, this year we're having 3 different streams. So your reference to social media is one. But in Nigeria also there's been an explosion of in the technology space, right? So people are building things, fintechs are taking over. So we've got a stream that is focused just on technology people. So if you're a coder or anything, you can just come, apply and join the bank.
Interesting. Data sciences and so on and so forth.
Yes, exactly. I interviewed I think 6 data scientists last week for this exact same thing.
Nice.
We chose 5 of them to come in. So there's certain fields that are high in demand. Everybody wants them. And, you can just come in easily through that route.
Hey, lucky me. As I say, I qualified as a data scientist now, so I better, start sharpening my skills,
Yes, so just come straight in.
Lucky me. So, business, obviously, we all know what we've been through, the past year and a half with, the pandemic hitting the world. But the world is gradually opening up again. I bet in most part of Africa, to be fair, Africa was not necessarily hit at the level at which the West and so many other places was hit, by the pandemic. But that's not to say it wasn't, a situation over there as well, because I've heard of 2 people. One of them I actually know who passed away due to this, situation, this pandemic issue. So how has business been progressing from your end since the pandemic hit? Suddenly the world had to readjust. Everyone had to start working from home. People are not necessarily, I don't think people are necessarily, the retail banking side of things, people are not necessarily coming into the bank. And again, you mentioned technology. So this is where technology comes in. The ATMs are probably working overdrive, So how was business progressing from your side during the pandemic? And now that the world is opening up again. So
let me put it this way. There's been two phases.
Okay.
There was a phase last year where everything shut down. Everybody panicked. We sort of locked up shop. The banks, like you just said, ATMs were at an overdrive. For the first time in my life, I saw queues around the block at ATMs as people tried to withdraw. Because, there was a time from about maybe April, May, the country was shut down. So immediately the country opened back up. Everybody just sort of tried to grab cash and have something. But then Nigeria went into a recession last year, and then we had the NSAS crisis. And what the NSAS crisis actually did was just to point out to most of us that the average Nigerian is a person, a fellow who lives hand to mouth. So it's what he earns daily that he uses to sustain himself. So if you ask him to not open up or work, he's not going to be able to do that. So from what I would call phase two was from like October, December, January, where the country just basically said, hey, we're going to have to survive anyway, so we're going to live with the pandemic, and everything opened back up. So you had areas like restaurants that didn't open fully or still have a capacity restriction, but most trade, commerce, e-commerce platforms, everybody opened up fully. My office is on the Marina, Lagos Island, and that's like the business center of the major business district in Lagos. And there are 4 international markets behind me. And believe me, Bimbo, they are full 24/7. You just see so many people coming in to trade, buy goods, move into other states in Nigeria, etc. So phase one, we managed to survive using technology. The bank worked remotely. Most people worked remotely. But phase two, everybody's starting to come back.
Wow, interesting. That's what the state of the economy is in Nigeria. It's a case of our daily bread situation, whereby you have to be out there getting things done to be able to feed. There's no. The hustle is real. There's no such thing as stimulus checks in Nigeria. There's no such thing. Let's not even get into the whole palliative, because that's another conversation, because there was so much on social media about the whole palliative hoarding, that's a little bit of a political chat. So we'll talk about that at some other time.
No problem.
It was mind-blowing when I saw that on social media, in every state, because how can palliatives be made to be available, and then it's stored away for months, but the people were going hungry? We'll talk about that some other time.
No
So, I mentioned social media earlier on, right?
Yes.
So in the world of the TikToks, YouTubes, Instagrams, and so on and so forth. Young people are coming out of high schools, colleges, universities. And the interest these days is not about going into banking, engineering, energy, law, and so on and so forth. They're just interested in going viral and becoming rich. It's a case of how many followers do they have, how many likes have they, gathered, and so on and so forth. No one is looking to sweat, or stress themselves any longer. No one is looking to build a career path. Are recent graduates still joining the banking industry? Or maybe it's the ones that are the data scientists, or the ones that have, really spent long time. I mean, not long, I shouldn't say long time, but maybe they've studied something and they are like, okay, I'm not a social media person. I'm just going to go into law. I'm just going to go into banking, I'm just going to go into medicine. But the others probably could not really be bothered, and they just want the followers, they want the likes, they want to go viral. And things that things that don't make it any easier. I mean, with all due respect to Big Brother, franchise, is something like the Big Brother. I don't follow, to be fair, I don't really follow it, but I hear about it because I see all these things when I go on social media sometimes. And it's mind-blowing how much of money, people are spending on voting for their favorites and things like that. Nothing wrong with that, but that is all what the youth are talking about. No one is talking about anything else. So is there a graduate still joining your industry, banking industry? Is there hope even for the graduates?
I sort of approach it from a different perspective. So let me answer the first question, which is, are we still able to find professionals willing to join the organization and build a career? Absolutely. There's no problem with that. So what you find in Nigeria is talents. There are two ways for talents. So talents are either leaving to find a better life abroad. So Canada is a clear case in point within the industry. So you have a lot of middle-level fellows leaving to go find work abroad. But then that just opens up a hole, and then all these young folks still come in. So there are people who are still interested. But on the second side, on the other side, the way I look at it is this: the world changes. Things change, morality changes, culture changes. And right now what we're experiencing is a cultural change, right? Okay. It is either you find the good there and find a way to sustain yourself, or you just ignore it. Let me give you an example. So the other day I have a colleague and I was talking to her, and she was telling me about a new place where her friend had opened like a lounge where people could come and eat and drink. And she said one day one of the influencers came there to eat. She was invited because she was a friend. And funny enough, it was one of the influencers on Big Brother, one of the past winners. Okay. Or one of the past participants. And she came and she said that what happened to the business after that was, it was like their sales went up by 1,000%. And for like 2-3 weeks, people just kept coming. So here's the reality. Nigeria has changed. 60% of Nigerians are under 24, and this is what they like. This is what they enjoy. They actually listen to these people. So it is more a question of the culture and society is changing. How do we make the best of what is happening? We can't stop Big Brother because we think that is going to stop anything. No, they are just going to find some other things. I mean, if you think about the way Nigerians move now, so you go on social media, last year, nobody knew anything about cryptocurrencies and Bitcoin. This year, we're talking about having done $2.4 billion worth of trade in cryptocurrencies. That is crazy. So what we have now is that social media has become like the tip of the spear. It leads people down a path, and we just need to be able to either find a way to manage that path or use it to help our businesses or things like that. The youth, they're not going to change. They're not just going to all of a sudden start wearing suits. No, they're not going to do that. They're going to continue to embrace social media. And one final thing I would like to say about the social media thing is unemployment. Youth unemployment in Nigeria is 33%. So this 60% of Nigerians under 24 are having 1 out of every 3 not having a job. Social media,
that's a problem.
Yes, so social media offers a way for them to do things. So you find that a lot of them with their phones, they can create businesses, they can buy things from China and sell online. They sell beard oil, they sell wigs, they sell everything imaginable. And it allows them to reach an audience. So it's a solution to that unemployment that we're experiencing. That's the way I see it. I would much rather see them being youthful and being gainfully employed, creating their own businesses than robbing people and all that.
Yeah, that is really that's really good. Thanks for that. You are right, and this is the Nigerian resilience, right? I
Absolutely.
don't know if
Absolutely.
Obviously the Nigerian resilience is a positive thing, but do you even think if our government, I'm looking for the right term to use without getting sued. Do you think if our government even gave a damn about us, would you think the youths will be as resilient as they are? Because obviously, as you say, 33%, that's a huge chunk. 1 in every 3 youths do not have a job, right? So this young people are creating something themselves by utilizing the social media, buying things, as you say, and reselling, or even creating, comedy skits, as they call it, and different things, and people follow them. People look at them, and then brands see that they've got lots of following, and then the brands want them to advertise for them, so I don't know. It's a case of a chicken and egg situation, but this is something we need to talk about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I feel that so the government has focused on 1 or 2 areas, and they've gotten some areas really wrong. So I will explain. So the government has focused on infrastructure. They are building bridges, they're building roads, they're doing trains. They're trying to fix some areas, right? But in trying to fix those areas, they are not able to fix certain other areas that might be more critical. So let me explain to you. Youth unemployment is exacerbated by 2 things, or by 1 thing.
Okay.
90% of Nigerian youths, right, that go to high school, when they finish, want to go into a university.
Yeah.
That's not normal. In most countries, what you find is there are technical universities where you can go learn trades, and there are tertiary universities where you go learn the academic stuff, right?
Yeah.
Most people will. So think about the average household. You need a mechanic, you need a plumber, you need a carpenter, you need different things, right? And there's a lot of demand there. But Nigerians tend to always want to do the salaried employment, the going into the office 9 to 5, and that's a problem. We need to open up that technical space and ensure that we are able to get quality capacity in there, right? So there is a standard. Mechanics must go to school, attend school and pass an exam, for example, so you know that they're actually good. And then anyone can use them, and you can just sort of build businesses out of that. Think about most countries for example, let's use Germany. Germany has one of the biggest economies because they produce things, they manufacture. And most of the things they manufacture is top-notch technical stuff, not academic stuff, not learning to be this or that in university, but creating skills in those other areas. So I feel that the government, let's not even talk about them. They're not performing to capacity. They're focusing on one area to the exception of the others. But then there's a lot more that we need to do in making sure that our youths have the right skills. So, I mean, if you think about it, 80% of the lawyers who pass through the law school never actually practice.
Wow.
There's so many kids on the road who, if you just got them into a trade, if you taught them how to do certain things, they'd be amazing. And then up north, you have the whole Almajiri situation whereby kids are going to learn Quranic education. How's that going to prepare you for life? Right?
It's not.
It's not. So you can't do Quranic education as well as other things. So tertiary education, teaching them how to do trades. And it's funny enough, my bank had an engagement with a federal government parastatal like 2 or 3 months ago, out of the vice president's office. And
Okay.
basically what they're trying to do is they're going to all the Quranic schools up north, and they're
Okay.
saying, hey, Quranic school teacher, we will pay you, right?
Yeah.
We will pay you to teach these guys for the normal hours you do, but then for the rest, we will bring in a trainer that will teach them how to do carpentry, teach them how to do mechanical stuff, etc., which is amazing.
That's
Because
good.
that way, what you're doing is you know that you can't just ban Quranic teaching. It's never gonna happen.
It's not gonna happen. Exactly. In the north, it's not
But
gonna happen.
you're sort of creating an ecosystem that allows you to work with them
Yeah.
to teach these kids something else, so they won't have to come out onto the streets and be begging all the time. So yeah, it's a mix, but we'll make do with what we have.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for that, Femi, and well done to your bank. This is probably one of the things that you're doing. I don't know if you're the one championing the cause, but obviously it's what your bank is doing, and you in this podcast you are representing your bank. So a lot of respect to you guys. Thank you for that, and I do hope they actually take that up. And it's not just in the north, it's everywhere, even in the east. I'm not saying they're teaching Quranic education in the east, but they're teaching them normal stuff, but they can still learn trade. The same thing in the west, in the southwest, south. It's a huge country. Education is everything. And you made mention of Germany. Germany is the largest economy in Europe, and what you said is so important. The manufacturing, the technical know-how, and this is something that we really need to get into as a country in Nigeria, in the sense that it is not just about studying. The skills are important. Those vocational and technical skills, very, very important, because you just never know what may actually work for each individual, and that such person will contribute to the society. Not everyone is going to be a doctor. Not everyone is going to be, an accountant, for example. And each of these professions are important. But guess what? A plumber is super important. A carpenter is super important. Listen, absolutely. in Norway, people literally, one of my colleagues, he paints. In fact, a lot of my colleagues, they paint their apartments themselves because painters are expensive. They're expensive. Plumbers are expensive. Everything, absolutely. All these things are expensive. Things that we probably take for granted in Nigeria. You come to the West and you will see how expensive these people are. Because what? Absolutely. It is their skill. It is the skill.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you one story quickly. My friends and I went to southern part. I can't remember the name of the town now, or city, because everywhere is a city in Norway. We went to a southern town of Norway, just about 2 hours outside of Oslo, just to go to the cabin. She was working with Statoil at the time. It's now called Equinor, and the staff, they have the right to use the cabin. So we went to spend the weekend at the cabin, about 4 of us and all of that. So we wanted to have lunch, during our hiking. And we stopped by this restaurant. We had a nice lunch and all of that. The lady that served us, she's not the owner of the restaurant. She was just working there. The lady that served us, did a good job, served us and all of that. And that was fine. So by the time we were done resting, and then we started to, head on, we were leaving the restaurant. And we saw this lady literally jumping into her Range Rover.
Yeah. Yep.
That was the time I said to myself, except if I see someone that has given me so much amazing service at a restaurant, maybe anywhere else, I don't know. I've never tried going to restaurants in the US, but the US is another story because it's part of the culture. I will not tip, any service person because this person has a Range Rover and I don't.
Yeah.
It's mind-blowing. Why I say that is because it is a service. It is a job. Everyone does their job and they get paid for it properly, handsomely. Do you understand?
Yeah.
There's no, I'll say the gap between a CEO and maybe a barrister or I don't know, a waitress or waiter is quite small in Norway. That is, it's quite small. The CEO of a company, that is, Except, of course, if you own the company, then that's a different story. But if you are working as a CEO or even head of anything, the gap is quite small. They're very well paid over there, very, very well paid. But anyway, that's the story for another day. Femi, how would you rate the state of the banking industry in Nigeria today?
Interesting question. I would say that banking in Nigeria is in really good health.
Okay, good.
So what has happened with us over the last 18 months to 2 years is we've started aggressive expansion in two areas. So Pan-African expansion. If you look at Access Bank, if you look at First Bank, GTB, EcoBank, Union Bank, everybody is just trying to move into as many countries as possible across Africa.
Right.
If you look at, and then the second part is fintech-based expansion. I mean, everybody knows the fintech story. So we've started to see unicorns appear in Nigeria. We have Flutterwave, we have Paystack, and Della became the latest unicorn a few days ago. And what you find is banks partner with these guys and then help them drive the expansion across Africa. So it's easier if you're working with Bank A in Nigeria to just tell them, hey, I'm going to Ghana. What do you see? How can I open an account if you're there? And other sort of advisory services. So we've started to even help this expansion across Africa. And you will then, if you then turn that on its head, if you go and look at the balance sheet of most banks and our performance, you will see that we've sort of built more wealth over the last few years. We're growing, our balance sheets are growing, profits are improving, and we're moving into new markets. So it's a really good time to be in the banking sector.
Oh, fantastic. Good stuff. It's good to hear these things. That's it's impressive. Thank you. So with the Nigerian economy, you're saying all of these great things that these banks are doing, expanding, the Pan-African side of things, fintech and all of that. How is the Nigerian economy faring, especially with all the problems of the last few years? Earlier on, you mentioned, the NSAS situation. Yeah. Election is coming up in 2023 even. How is the economy faring in general?
So there's I don't know, there's no way for you to put a good spin on the economy. In the last 6 years, we've had 2 recessions, right? That's just not good news. Nigeria is an economy completely dependent on exporting crude oil so that we can get FX to support the government spend. Every part of the economy is under threat right now. So, for example, exportation, importation, because the price of crude oil dipped a while back. I mean, but now it's back up to $80 a barrel, but it's still nowhere near the $100 that we enjoyed maybe 5 years ago.
That's going to take some miracles to happen.
Yeah. So there's that. There's the fact that unemployment is really high because jobs are under threat. There's the power sector where we're not seeing a lot of growth. There was a deal with Siemens that we thought would change the trajectory of that sector. It's not been completed. So basically, the economy isn't doing that well. I mean, last year we were in a recession. Q1 we grew by 4.1%. That's the GDP. But that was because we were bouncing back from the low base of last year. So for the rest of the year, we'll grow around 2%. 2% is not enough. For Nigeria to change dramatically, our economy, our GDP needs to be growing at double figures. So that's 10%. That's what China did consistently over the last 30 years. And that's what we need to do. The way forward for the economy is liberalization. Let government just leave everything and just say, hey, capitalists just flood in and make things happen, because there is no way where you have excessive government regulations and control that you're going to see the amount of growth we need to see. And a clear example showing the way forward is the telecom sector.
Yeah, absolutely.
When it was when it was time to start telecoms, there were lots of companies that thought about coming in and said, no, Nigeria is too much of a risky environment. The two that came in then, MTN and the current Airtel, I've seen such dramatic growth. In fact, Nigeria has been the lead for the growth for the company internationally. So the Nigerian market is huge. For MTN, for example. And now, because of social media, most Nigerians are transiting to data usage. So the growth will just continue. And what I'm trying to say here is, when government gets out of the way and allows a sector to operate openly and with aggressive competition, you will see growth. And that's what we need.
Interesting. Nigerian government, are you sure they're ready to allow anything?
We'll just wait till the next government comes in. This government, they've already clearly shown us where they're looking, so we're not going to expect anything dramatic.
Exactly. Femi, I've enjoyed every moment of this conversation, but I have to ask you something. What has helped you most in your career?
The people ahead of me. Mentorship is so important in my career, and I'm going to say this without bias. I have been lucky because I have worked with the best people. You know, when you have a man in front of you, ahead of you, who you admire and envy, and you want to be like, it drives you.
It does.
Absolutely drives you. I have worked with the deputy managing director of the largest bank in Nigeria. I've worked with one of the foremost thought leaders in consulting. I have worked with a chief financial officer who has led a Pan-African expansion. In all of them, I just keep seeing that ruthless aggression that, hey, I want to be the best I can be. I will not let my environment dictate the kind of leader I will be. And that has just helped me to, sort of push myself to say, I want to be like that guy. I want to get here. I want to be there. Right. So that's really important. The people around you.
This is so key, it's not just enough to be in a fantastic company, but to also have the right people, around you, surrounding you. They say within 5 friends or 5 people, how they are is how you will be, essentially. So this is you're correct. It's very impressive, the people that you've worked with and you've looked up to them, you've emulated, their work ethics, and obviously you've done more for yourself.
Yeah, you have to play that back, because the same way they have shown me a path forward, I have to show the guys behind me, coming behind me. So the other day, a few weeks ago, I was doing appraisal for some of my staff, and I asked one of the guys, I was like, 5 years, what's your plan? What do you want to be? Where are you going? Where do you see yourself? And the guy said, would it be weird if I said I want to be like you? And that for me was the crowning moment, because that meant he had seen good things and he wanted to, sort of structure his career along the same lines. Absolutely.
Wow. That's impressive. That's really good. Yeah, really good to hear. Now, you say that. My last question for you is, are you a mentor then? As any one of these people approached you to mentor them?
Absolutely.
That's
so
good.
I don't even wait to mentor people. I will. So it's not a question of you coming to me and saying, hey, please, I want to be. No, I look at everybody in my division. I've got 75 people in my division, and at some point I try to engage all of them. And the question is, so what are you doing? Who are you? Where do you see yourself going? For example, one of the things I quickly learned about the young folks in my division was a lot of them had never been outside Nigeria.
Okay.
I started trying to push them, because when you see a different place, it expands your horizon. It shows you that there can be more. So
it does.
In that, I have pushed a lot of them to travel. I've pushed a lot of them to come out of their comfort zone. So there's a guy in my team who I have pushed to write more. he writes. He's really great at writing. I've tried to get him to write in newspapers, sort of expand his horizon. He might at the end of the day leave my organization because he's found something else, but he will be so good in that thing that he will make me proud. And then
he would always also look back. Yeah, he would always look back and remember other people. Yeah, exactly. Wow. Yeah. Wow, I am impressed and I'm floored. I shouldn't say I'm impressed. I'm just. This is amazing. Thank you, Femi. Absolutely. This is great. I don't even know where to start. You have done more than excellently well in your chosen path. And what I like everything that you've mentioned, but what's really, stood out to me is, you giving back as you have been given. You've learned from the best. Exactly. You've learned from the best. You emulated the best, and you're also pushing your own team, encouraging them. And this is what young people need. We don't want a situation whereby, one is the best and you just want to be the only one without wanting to bring up people coming behind you. And this is something that is rife within our society over there, based on my experience, at least back in the day. But hey, I guess things are changing now. So, so me being in the oil industry, back in the day, I quickly realized, because I represent, so in my company, I'm in charge of the African space, and I would go to really, really important conferences and stay in probably even the nicest hotels. I say this because I find more often than not, when it comes to young people coming from, I would say Nigeria, I don't want to say Africa, because I've seen people from Namibia and they're mostly young as well. But when it comes to Nigeria, I only see the people, the old folks, the senior people at the NNPC, the DPRs, the NAPIMs. And I'm thinking, I know people I went to school with could literally be representing DPR right now, or NAPIMs. Do you understand? And because I'm young and I'm there, talking to the ministers and the CEOs and so on and so forth, basically representing a Norwegian company, because I do work for a Norwegian company. So it for me, it was just mind blowing. And year after year, I keep seeing the same people representing Nigeria, and I'm thinking, this can't be right. There's got to be young people. I know young people working in some of this, governmental institutions, basically the oil and gas space, the national companies and so on and so forth. I know young people that are working there. Why can't they be the ones to be sent? And these people have experience. They have years of experience. They're not even recent graduates. Do you understand? But then I end up seeing people that have spent maybe 40 years, 30 years in their position or something. So it's really, really, I'm really pleased with what you're doing, bringing people behind you, trying to help them, trying to open up their eyes to the possibility. And there's an important thing that you mentioned, travel. Oh, there's nothing as good as traveling. Do whatever you can to travel, because you see the world in a different, in a different light. And it's also, it's a form of education. And I tell young people that I mentor as well back home, and I tell them, listen, you don't have to come to the UK. You don't have to come to the US. The world doesn't start and end in these two countries. You don't have to, come to Germany, to Australia. Why don't you just start in Rwanda? It's just next to you. I mean, it's not obviously next, but it's in the continent is what I mean. Why don't you go to Ghana?
It's easier to go there.
Exactly. Why don't you go to South Africa? Why don't you go to Mozambique? I went to Mozambique and I loved it. I actually went there for work. And I said to the people I met there, I said, I'm coming back, because I spent just 3 days and it wasn't enough. Uganda, Tanzania, so many countries that you can go to. You see how things are there, you learn, and then of course you can go to the West. No one stops anyone. But what people seem to be more interested in is the UK, the US, and Dubai. And what they also do is just shop. And Canada. I just called Canada Nigeria 2.0, literally, because of that. I'm telling you, it's Nigeria 2.0. Everyone is moving to Canada. And this is something we're going to talk about next time in the next conversation we have on the podcast, because I am very, very, very intrigued about this whole, Canada Great Migration, essentially.
Yep.
There's something that is not going right in the country, in Nigeria, for everyone to be moving to Canada, or at least moving somewhere else. There's nothing wrong with moving elsewhere and coming back to fix your country. But when people move and they literally say, I'm never going back, then something needs to be done in the country.
Absolutely.
I don't want it to get to a point whereby we become tenants in our own homes.
Yeah.
That is the scary part. And that's something that we need to do something about. But anyway, as I said, that's going to be in another, episode of BlueSitron. Well, Femi, thank you so much for your time today.
You.
I've thoroughly enjoyed our conversation. Thank you.
Same here.
I've loved every moment of it. Oh, thank you. Well, a big thanks to our listeners today. Until next time, it's been from BlueSitron. Do enjoy the rest of your day. Take care. Bye-bye.